going to start this chapter. That's the next chapter of your syllabus. That is going to be the seventh chapter called as Transport in Plants. We have just discussed the learning outcomes. So, first question which comes in your mind is that why a transport system is required even by the plants? Like for you have the heart for the transport and you have the blood vessels for helping or aiding in the whole circulatory system. So, what plants do have? So the first thing that why they need, for the transport is basically, uh, you know, water and mineral lines. They are basically absorbed from the roots. They are very deep penetrated inside the soil. Okay, and then xylem is going to transport it up to very tall tree, and then obviously it is going to be a one of the byproduct, or you can say the reactant, sorry, for the photosynthesis. So that water will be required by the leaf for the process of photosynthesis. So need that this transport system so that the reactant can meet together. And then obviously the product they have formed, they need to move the substances from there where they are produced. If it is produced in the form of glucose, then you need to remember that glucose is a reducing sugar. It can disturb the tonicity of the cells. It cannot be transported as such. The transport sugar is called as sucrose. This is just this is basically a disaccharide. And why we call it disaccharide? Because this is going to be very importantly means acting as a transporting sugar, and then we can move it to even those for those seasons and can be stored in the root in the form of starch. So there are basically three forms of this sugar. One is glucose, second is the sucrose, which is transported sugar, and third one is the storage sugar. So for these all transportation, you need basically this transport system. For example, as it's written that sugar is prepared in leaves, but glucose, whenever it will be needed for the respiration or for converting the cellulose for making cell wall and the growth, so it can then be required for some interval. But what about the rest of it? So the glucose can be moved in the phloem as a part of the sucrose molecule. So it will be basically transported over there. So that's why you need a proper transport system in plants as well. So even, if this is your tuber, you can check here, potato tuber, it is called as, having storage form in the form of starch. Okay, so what is happening that leaves are basically performing the process of photosynthesis, making the glucose, and this glucose can be then sent to the base of this plant via transport system, and then can be saved as starch. But unlike animals, plants do not have you know proper system for transporting carbon dioxide. Like you have the lungs. Okay, you do have the lungs, you have the breathing system. They have basically this opening called as stomata. So instead, these gases basically simply diffuse through the air spaces within the stem, roots, and leaves. So basically, why you need carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide in photosynthetic plant, it will be required while during daylight. The more photosynthetic tissue in leaves and most plants, they have evolved a very good adaptation of the cell of the leaf, that it is very thin. Can you see it's a very thin, but having a very large surface area. So it's ideal for absorbing as much as carbon dioxide as possible. But with which principle they are doing that? That's the gradient principle. That's the diffusion principle through which this gas comes in and goes out. And the oxygen, that's very important, which is basically required by the plants even for the respiration. Okay. So, but cells which are actively photosynthesizing, they basically produce more than enough oxygen for their own need, because oxygen is for them as acting as a waste product. So what they will be doing, they will be obviously sending them out via the stomach. But cells which are not photosynthesizing, they need a constant supply of oxygen from their environment. So plants have much lower energy demand because they are not mobile. They cannot respire at that rate at which we are respiring. Okay, so they do not need such a rapid supply of oxygen. But the branching shape of plants and a network of air spaces, they provide large enough surface area for the effective absorption of this oxygen or the other gases which are required, like carbon dioxide by the plant. So basically, it's relatively very easy for the carbon dioxide and oxygen to diffuse into and out of the bodies of the plant because you don't need any basic, very much science. You only operate on the principle of gradient, and the process you follow is called as diffusion. No energy is required, it's a passive transport. So there's no need for the transport system for these gases. But for which thing you need transport? You need transport for the distribution of plants. You need transport system for the inorganic and organic nutrients, as well as even for the plant hormones, you require the transport system in the plant. So if I'm talking about gas exchange, so it can be simply done by stoma. But yes, the transport of nutrients and organic nutrients, minerals, hormones, you require proper transport system. So what are the two important, we term as them as a vascular bundle. So what are the two important transport system? That's xylem and phloem. It's a very important diagram. You need to remember that this is of a stem. It is in a circular form. You can see that. So xylem is always inner side. You can see here from the inner side. The labeling you need to remember. And the phloem will always be outside, and the ring between them is called as basically cambium, where there will be actively division of the cells taking place. So you can see the original picture from here. Okay, sometimes students find it very difficult that how we can understand that this is xylem. Look at the lumen size. It's quite bigger. This is xylem. But look at the lumen size here. It's not as much as big as xylem. So you can simply identify with the size of the lumen that which one is xylem and which one is phloem. If I'm talking about trees, so vascular tissue is located on the outer side, outer layer. Okay, the inner one is made up of wood. Okay, then you can see that this ring, and you know that we can find the age of a tree by counting the rings of this xylem. So this is the xylem. Then you can see vascular cambium. Then you can see, phloem, and at the end is on the top outside is called as the bark, which is going to be the hardwood, or you can say that it's the dead one part of which is not going to be obviously involved in the transfer. So xylem function is basically going to carry water and inorganic ions. It's not only water. You need to remember it's also going to carry the inorganic ions, the mineral ions, from where? From roots to the above the ground. So xylem sap can only move in one direction. That's very important. Means from bottom to up. While if I'm talking about phloem, it can carry the substances made by the photosynthesis, and it can even move in different directions. Why it need to? Because it can come to downwards, upwards, even to the roots. Okay. So in neither of these systems do fluids move as rapidly as blood does. Why? Because we are mammals, we are having obviously a very important pumping system that's called as heart. But neither plant transport system carries the oxygen and carbon dioxide. They only have that stoma. So it's not the function of these vascular bundles to basically carry these two gases. That's very important, graph or table you can see. You need to remember the difference between the xylem and the phloem. If you talk about xylem, then it's made of dead cells, while phloem is made up of living cells. The thickness of obviously wall of xylem will be thicker. It is much thinner, and there is another extra deposition called as lignin, while the phloem is simply as such like other cell wall cellulose. The permeability of xylem is impermeable, and there will be some deposition of lignin in different patterns. It can be in a spiral form, ring form, but there are few we used to use the term perforated. So they are perforated basically. Itself, these two structures are going to be acting as a basically cellulose is fully permeable, but when we talk about lignin, then we say that it's impermeable. So cellulose is permeable. There is no cytoplasm in xylem, but there is a thin lining. I'll show you how it is thin in the phloem. It is only going to transport water and minerals, while food means sucrose, glucose. It's going to be transported by the phloem. And obviously, xylem is going to carry all this water towards the leaf, while phloem can carry towards the growing part, towards storage organs. Its direction is only in one direction, but phloem can be in different directions. Xylem is also going to have a very important fibers. We'll discuss in detail what about these parenchymus fibers. But for phloem, you need to remember they have a very important cell along with it that's called as companion. Why called as companion? Because all the role of transporting and you can use a term of translocation is done by this companion cell. So in other words, if shortly we say that where xylem is involved, it's involved in the process of transpiration. What is transpiration? It's the loss of water vapors from the surface of the leaf. While phloem is involved in translocation, means you are changing the location of your sugar which you have prepared to the rest of the plant. So what is moved? It's only the water and minerals, while here you can move the substances which are food, as acting as a food. The structure of xylem is simply column of a hollow dead. If this is cellulose, then there is another extra deposition of lignin. You can say it can be outside with different patterns. I'll be showing you that how different patterns there are. You can see a quick difference between the direction. If you're looking at the xylem, you can see the direction is only from low to high, but you can see that the direction is even in different ways. It's for food and water both. Cells have end walls. Can you see the end walls are present? But here no end walls are present. Something is disintegrated over here. So end to end, it's just like acting like a pipe in your home for the sanitary purpose. Then you need to remember the concept of monocotyledons, monocots, and dicotyledons, dicots from your O levels. But I'm just quickly going to revise it that for monocot, you need to remember con. Mono means one, di means two. So if you split like almonds, you split peanuts, okay. So if you are going to even walnuts, so if they are basically those plants, if you split them into two halves, like here you are looking at the bean, they will be showing you a proper, cut between the, in the structure, and there will be two half cotyledons over there. But single cotyledon, the way you eat, I think you eat corns. I hope you remember. In Pakistan, it's really available. Anyways, you can see that the first difference is about on the basis of the cotyledons. Okay. Then the second difference is on the basis of look at the venation system. Look at the first of all leaf. And inside the leaf, you can see that there are parallel venation. It's just like a grass. You can see that in grass, the parallel venation occurs. But here you can see that it's a web-like, network-like venation. So it's a net-like venation. This is the second difference. The third difference you can see, look at the root. It's going to have a one fibrous root. But here you can see that there is a tap root, which is going to be have different more fibers, and they can protrude longer into the. So this is the these are the three basic main differences between the monocots and dicots. Okay, now we're going towards a very important topic, that's the structure of stem, roots, and leaves. Okay, so they are basically acting as a main organ, like leaf, like root, like stem. They are independent organs, because you know that organs are composed of more than one tissue, and tissues are the collection of specialized cells for a particular function. And the cell may be of the same time, like parenchyma, or maybe of different, like vascular bundle is having xylem and phloem. So it depends that what kind of organ you are talking about. So a bit more information about the monocotyledon, about the basis of the petiole as well. It's a stalk with which the leaf is attached with the main stem. So the first thing that flowering plants means angiosperms may be monocotyledons, or they can be even dicotyledons. So you used to say that monocotyledonous plants are more like grasses. They have very long and narrow leaves. While dicotyledons, they are typically having blades, stalks, wet net-like venation. But the mechanism for the transport in both, whether it's mono, whether it's di, is same. But yes, the distribution of stem and leaf and roots, vascular bundle distribution is different. Okay, so this we have already done. I'm just typing it. Now we have to discuss about the first layer which is present on the surface of leaf. So what we are starting with structure of leaf basically, then we'll go to stem, and then we'll go to root. We will discuss the different patterns of vascular bundles in them, and obviously the structure. The structure you have already done in your O levels as well, that you are having a waxy cuticle on upper and lower both epidermises. So this is the upper epidermis, this is the lower epidermis. You can see palisade mesophyll, you can see spongy mesophyll, you can see air spaces, guard cells, stoma, and these are called as mesophills. Okay, so what about epidermis? We're just talking about first the epidermis. So it's a one cell thick. Look at, it's only single cell thick. It's covered, yes, it's covered with a waxy cuticle so that you can prevent from drying out or even protect from the infection as well. And in leaves, it has some pores which are called as stomata. There are more pores or more on the lower surface or lower epidermis, very less on the upper. We have different investigations on this as well. So in root, this epidermis may have few extensions. Can you see? They can be root hairs, which are more and more adopted. These epidermal cells are more adopted in roots for the mineral salts absorption. Here you can see the root epidermal outgrowths. Then comes another tissue, second tissue, that's called as parenchyma. P for parenchyma, P for, you remember the pith when I'm talking about the stem. So what is parent? P for packaging. We used to use the term packaging as well. Okay, so parenchyma is made up of thin walled cells, and P for packing tissue. They're just looking, look how they have basically compacted. But one thing I would like you to observe, it is a very important diagram. It comes even in P3. I've been examiner now for more than 10 to 15 years, and I have observed one thing, that these pictures are very favorite. Specifically, let me just scroll down and show you people. Okay, what they asked you people, they ask you to observe this diagram or this slide carefully, and then they say that only draw 3 to 4 cells, and if you find any of the, you can see these gaps. Can you see these gaps? So you need to even mention in your drawing these gaps as well. So I'll be teaching you that how you are going to be, getting master on drawing all this, P3 plant diagrams, which require even this much information. Anyways, quickly, we are going to figure out that what are the functions. They are very metabolically active. Okay, they are used for many functions. They can be even used for the storage foods. And when they are rigid, fully turgid, so they basically fully inflate with the cell. They basically help the supporting plant, and they prevent from the wilting as well. There are air spaces. I just observed you. I just showed you that air spaces between the cells. They also allow the gas exchange. So water and minerals salts are transported through the walls. Look at these walls. If I'm highlighting these walls, and then it's going to transfer to the air inside the xylem from here. So these walls are very important. Okay. So walls and water and mineral salt are transported to the walls and to the living content of these cells. So parenchymas are also going to form very important thing, cortex and root, while stems, it's in the form of pith. Okay, so when we label as cortex, then they are also made up of parenchyma cells. When we label pith in the stem, they are also made up of parenchyma cells. What are they important? Metabolically active, storage for the food, prevent from the collapsing or wilting, even have the gas exchange, can be, water can be transported through the walls. Okay. Now what is cortex? It's the outer region of the cell. And the pith is made up of similar cells, and we give the central region of the stem this name about the pith. Parenchyma cell, very importantly, they also contain chloroplasts in the leaves, where it is modified to form palisade and spongy mesophyll. So in leaf, the parenchyma is going to modify it as spongy and mesophyll having chloroplast, while in stem it's going to be pith. In root, it's going to be a cortex. Okay, so this thing you need to remember. Then comes to the third important type of tissue, that's called as collenchyma. You can see here exactly above the xylem and near the midrib of your leaf. So collenchyma is basically modified from parenchyma, but it is having extra cellulose and it's deposited at the corners of the cells, and it's providing extra strength. So basically, the midrib of the leaves usually contain this column-chyma. Okay, the thing you have like coriander in your home, you cut them. They are basically having the midrib very strong. So that part, which I have just highlighted over here, that part is basically acting as the column-chyma near to the midrib. So what it provides then? It provides the extra strength. Then comes the fourth one, that's called as endodermis. Okay. Endo means inner. Dermis means a skin layer. Okay. So endodermis is like epidermis, is like one cell, but it's going to surround the vascular tissues. So if you see here, if this is xylem, if this is the peripheral one is phloem, then you can see that it's protected by a circular layer called as endodermis. Similarly, come here. If this is xylem, okay, then you can see even a layer of endodermis with gray color over here. That's very important. Look at the cortex. I told you that in root you can have cortex, in stem you can have pith in the center. Okay, we also give the name stele as well to the pith. It's really in the stem. You can see the cortex again, the parenchyma cells. Okay, so endodermis is the layer which is surrounding the vascular bundle. Then the meso. Meso means middle. Phil means leaf. So if this is epi means upper. So if these are the mesophils, so there are two types of mesophils, palisade mesophil, spongy mesophil. So basically, there are also parenchyma cells. They are found between the upper and lower epidermis of the leaf. They are specialized for photosynthesis because they are containing chloroplasts. There are two types, palisade and spongy. Spongy will be having more and more, air spaces, while palisade will be column shaped. Spongy is why called as spongy because it contains spongy in the appearance because it has many large air spaces. Palisade cells are basically near to the upper epidermis. So they are the one who are going to receive the maximum sunlight. It means that they are going to be the one which are having more chloroplast as well. Then comes pericycle. Okay, so this is the fifth one that's called as pericycle. Okay, now check. P for pith in the stem. Okay, and after that you can observe that there is an endodermis layer. Okay, there's an endodermis. We just started up. After endodermis, you can see that there is a whole layer of cells called as pericycle. So this is a layer of cell, one to several cells even thick, just inside the endodermis, next to the vascular tissue. So in roots, basically, it's only one cell thick. New roots can grow from this layer, while in stem, it is formed from a tissue called as sclerenchyma. I will be telling you what is the sclerenchyma later. So sclerenchymas are going to have basically dead and lignified cells for extra strength. For this, you need to remember that pericycle is basically present in the root where it's going to surround the endodermis. And sixth important tissue is called as vascular tissue. So xylem and phloem combining form vascular tissue. Vascular means having tubes for transporting fluids. And xylem have basically dead cells. That's why we call it as xylem vessel element. And the walls of the cells are reinforced with a very important impermeable material called as lignin. And xylem is also going to provide not only mechanical support and strength, but obviously involved in the transport of mineral, salts, and water. So these are the two main functions by xylem. In root, it is present in the center. You can see here. Okay, it's just like a star-shaped structure. But in stem, xylem and phloem are found in bundles. Okay, so the outside of these bundles, they have caps which are made up of sclerenchyma. I will be showing you. And I told you that sclerenchyma is having extra lignin, more lignin than even xylem. It is going to be dead. It is going to be for more strength. So they are long dead empty cells with lignified walls, and they are basically more for the strength. They don't have any other function. Sclerenchyma has a function for the strength. So the distribution and strengthening xylem and sclerenchyma is different basically in root and stem. Basically, how we came to know, because when we give them different strains, then we came to know that, okay. And obviously, different organs have to perform different stresses and strains. That's why the mechanical support is required differently for different parts of the plants. For example, stem, they need the extra support because they have to be in the air. Whereas roots, they are usually spreading through the soil and they're subjected to pulling strain. So these two parts can have, more sclerenchymus rather than leaf. The leaf have basically more parenchyma in the middle. That's going to give it more strength. So in root stem of the tree, extra xylem is made forming the wood. Phloem is basically going to call seed tubes. Why? Because this is living cell. And they are very beautifully arranged along with the companion cell, and that companion cell is going to be performing the function. Okay, so these were all the structure which was important for you to remember. But if you want to start the next topic, rather than starting the next topic, I would like you to show you few, important diagrams which you need to draw. Silent. And that's very important you to remember that there are different types of xylem tissues. Why? Because we used to name them as tracheids, xylem vessels, parenchyma fibers, and xylem parenchyma. So these are the four things which are involved in it. You need to look at the diagram carefully, and then you need to locate all the three. Let me enlarge it for you people. Okay, have a look. It said that if you want to ask about the support and transport, then you have tracheids and xylem vessels. But if you want only support, if I'm writing here only, then it means that you will have xylem parenchyma and sclerenchyma fibers. So I will look over here that where you are finding the sclerenchyma fibers. Okay. As I told you that there will be more lignified wall. More lignified wall. Can you see? They are more lignified wall. They are more thicker from wall point of view. You can see them here as well. So they are sclerenchyma fibers. They are simply lignified xylem vessel, and this is the lumen of the xylem vessel. And look at the parenchyma cells for the xylem, which can have even nucleus, cellulose cell wall, cytoplasm, vacuole. You can see all the organelles, which is basic organelles required for it.